what we call Mosquito County. The name of this place was Mosquito County. I can't imagine why they changed it. But, after Mosquito Lagoon. And then that became Volusia County. So we were part of Volusia County. Flagler did appear around 1914, Flagler County. And it was named after Henry Flagler, who was never here, by the way. It should have been called Moody County, but they called it Flagler County.
He came through in the railroad, though.
Yeah, he had something to do with the railroad.
Politics. Somebody was trying to impress him.
But there was a lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of industry here in those plantations. Because when you reflect on the thing, there were no whites here. Florida was dangerous. If you lived here, you died because you had yellow fever, you had malaria, you had all sorts of nasty diseases. So the owners lived in St. Augustine, and these were absentee ownership plantations. The blacks ran the plantations. In other words, they had supervisors, the bosses, the people in charge were slaves. And that's been well documented, that they were running.
So they migrated their slaves, like you mentioned
Yes,
earlier?
they did.
Were
They
taking
moved them back and
seasonally
forth. Yes.
And so they were living in the north.
The slaves, they would move
Well,
them
the
in,
white
move them
family
out.
plantation owners kept their families in the plantations.
They didn't live in the plantations for the most part.
Even the ones, where did you say they were?
Well,
taking them back
Savannah
and forth
was,
to?
Savannah and Charleston.
You don't think those were family occupied, owner occupied?
Oh, those were, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then
But
there
not down
was
here.
not down.
This place was just simply too dangerous. And so your owners, Bulow had a beautiful house in St. Augustine. Now, they had a plantation house here, but they didn't live here for the most part.
I never realized
But they would come to oversee it from time to time.
From time to time, of
that.
course.
Probably just the men.
But the overseers were black slaves, and that we know for sure.
Wow. That's
Okay.
a new piece.
So talking about the county structure, I did an exhibit out in the annex, and Flagler County. This is the 5th county that, after Florida became a territory in 1821, it was divided into 2 counties: Escondido, where West Florida was, and St. John's, where East Florida was. And then, as Bill said, as the population grew and the economy grew, most of the East Coast was called Mosquito County. And then Mosquito County went defunct, and then they broke it up, and what is today Volusia and Flagler County was in Orange County for a while. And the top of Flagler County was in St. Johns County. And then later, Orange County got divided up even further, went inland, and then Volusia County comprised most of Flagler County, with the exception of the top part being St. Johns. And then in 1917, Flagler County basically got created with part of Volusia and part of St. John's. So it went through an evolution of 5 different counties since 1821. And now Florida has 67 counties. It started out with 2. So that's how divided it got over the last 150 some years.
Plenty confusing.
Yeah. And there's a map, I have maps out there that show you in what year the counties existed and their borders and all that. So that information does exist, but not many people realize that at one time we were all part of Mosquito County, and Mosquito Inlet, that's now called what? Ponce de Leon Inlet, right? They changed the name of that, and then of course that wasn't too popular of a name. That was a Spanish name, and as they left and the American psyche came into the area, it wasn't too fashionable to be called Mosquito County.
Can't understand why.
Right, right.
Billy, your maps showed squares. It looked like the Western Land Survey. Did they come in and do, the typical land survey that we
This
experienced?
has driven me crazy. How did those surveyors do what they did? Because they look like modern surveys.
Yeah.
And many times I was fortunate to get a modern survey. I had a buddy that could overlay them on the old Spanish survey. They would match up exactly.
Really?
So how the heck did they do it? They must have had a compass, but latitude and longitude, they said, well, gee, they'd have to anchor a ship out there to get an accurate reading. I don't know how they did it. But for the most part, those old Spanish survey maps were amazingly accurate,
Huh,
you know, right on the money.
that's
And it
interesting.
just, I have no answer, I don't know how they did it. But they sure did it.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, how'd they do it?
Yeah. Huh.
One of the early British, his name was de Brom, and he was Dutch, he was a Dutchman. And he did some of the early British surveys of the area, and they're spectacular. We got them from the British Museum. They were 4 by 6 feet was the size of the documents, because they couldn't, you know, you couldn't copy or reproduce.
Yeah.
But how they put in latitude and longitude, I know now. I don't know how. Fascinating.
Yeah.